And welcome into the Rowdy Studio, where before we do a single thing, we're going to thank our friend Erin Gillis for the fine die-cast, which we present to you now.
She sent us not only an Elliott Sadler Wood Brothers car, but it's autographed.
And as Kyle Busch told us, the only Wood Brothers victory at Bristol Motor Speedway, Elliott Sadler.
Huh?
Is that surprising?
So thank you, Erin. We appreciate the swag.
Now, speaking of Elliott Sadler, you know, he used to drive a Ford.
Nice segue.
We're going to talk about the Ford drivers, and specifically Roush Fenway Racing, because you got to be honest, the run at Michigan, one top 10 for that entire team, Matt Kenseth 10th, that's a disappointment.
A track at which they have dominated. I think they have 21 victories as a team at that track.
Yeah, it's their best track, I believe.
And it was Greg Biffle's best opportunity to make the chase.
And he started on the pole, and he dominated the first part of the race.
And then was nowhere to be found. Ford is on the schneid.
Which leads to the question, what happened?
I don't know what happened. You could say, well, their fuel mileage is worse than the other manufacturers, but it didn't come down to fuel mileage. So I don't know what happened. But, you know, I looked at the...
Did you do some research?
I looked at the best 25 drivers over the past 6 races.
Right.
Your top 6, Chevy, Toyota, Chevy, Dodge, Chevy. Not till 7th do you hit a Ford. And if you look at the top 6's best finishes, all 1s and 2s. Matt Kenseth in 7th, his best finish over the last 6, 5th.
And that's the only top 5 the team has had in the last 5 races, I believe.
Carl Edwards had a 5th as well.
Well, that was in the last 6. I looked at the last 5.
Okay.
Okay, that's 20 starts. 4 cars, 5 races, 20 total starts. I think he got 5 top 10s in there and 1 top 5 in there. Now, you got to look at the tracks as well, because the last 5 races, Loudon, flat track, big short track, Indianapolis, big flat track, Pocono, Roval, Watkins Glen, road course, but then you get to Michigan. So you got to be a little careful getting too down on the Roush cars, because we haven't run a ton of downforce tracks lately. But the Michigan performance has to be concerning.
Michigan was startling. I mean, that's just almost an automatic for Roush Fenway Racing.
You would think at least a couple top 5s and a couple more top 10. You know, 3 top 10s,
right.
2 top 10s, a top 5, 2 something.
But, you know, other than Atlanta, what do we have to look forward to in terms of downforce tracks leading up to the chase? And that's my concern, is that Carl Edwards specifically is sort of losing that momentum he had been building towards the chase.
Well, we expected a little bit of a turnaround, I think, when he signed his contract.
But in the other direction.
Right. So we haven't seen that yet. I will say this, though, and we need to be a little bit careful. Roush Fenway, other than Greg Biffle, they've got 2 guys that are going to be in the chase, and Matt Kenseth and Carl Edwards. And they are now, if they're smart, preparing for the chase. They're not trying to run great at Richmond or Atlanta, where they're not going to be in the chase. So performance at those racetracks doesn't necessarily reflect how they're going to perform in the chase. A couple years ago, Brian Vickers had the most points of anyone heading into the chase in the 10 races before the chase. It didn't mean anything.
But don't you want to get your ducks in a row leading up to Chicago? I mean, you don't want to, at this point, I don't think you want to be experimenting and trying different things. I think you want to be zeroing in, and I don't think you want to go into Chicago on a string of bad finishes, even though those tracks don't show up.
I don't think that the finishes matter. I think what you're able to do at Chicagoland matters. And to the extent that Michigan is a reflection of something in your downforce program, that's where the concern comes in. To the extent that it's not, I wouldn't worry about it. But I think there's a bit of a caveat. Am I concerned if I'm a Ford fan? Yes, I am. Yes, I am.
Are you a Ford fan?
I'm not going to reveal that on Rowdy today. Your thoughts, always of interest, in the comment box down below. And we'll see you next time right here from the Rowdy Studios.
Rowdy.com. Say it like it is.
Say what like it is?
Rowdy.com.